Welcome to Eyes Open. Today is March 13, 2020. I've got Julie Rowe on the line. We're going to do a recording on some current events, especially with coronavirus in mind, and would like to tie in Julie's gifts and what she sees there. Julie, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Other than that Walmart's a crazy madhouse and you can't get any toilet paper.
I saw the funniest picture on Facebook last night. Somebody posted a picture of my thing's going all over the place. It was a map of the United States, and it had this big outline around Idaho, and it said that big line around Idaho represented a toilet paper border that we had built out of, because you can't find toilet paper anywhere. So it was pretty funny. Yeah.
Funny.
Well, that's been my experience too. I went to Sam's Club last night. I went there this morning. I went to Walmart this morning. I had other things I was getting. We're not in a panic. We're well stocked and prepared, but it was a madhouse at all those places. Couldn't believe it. So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Julie, I helped you write your biography, and I've read your book, New Revolution, where you talked about things that would happen in the end times, and plagues was definitely one of them. I know that you didn't specifically name coronavirus, but I do remember you talking about these plagues that would come before big plagues, kind of like a wave of a number of different these kinds of things that would come. Can you just tell us what you saw in relation to coronavirus, like in your near-death experiences,
Right.
or just other visions you've had?
Right. Well, what I saw was everything from Ebola to coronavirus to some other variations of these viruses that are militarized weapons that have been developed in labs. And they've had them for years. They've been mutating several different strains of it. So there's not any one treatment for coronavirus. In fact, there's a general test that some people can take some of the time. But again, it's a virus, and there are no cure-alls for this. And in part because what they're doing is they're attaching Epstein-Barr virus, which spirojets and cloaks the nucleus of its cell, and then they are connecting that or injecting the coronavirus or other viruses into this. Then they're putting it in preservatives, they're putting it in soaps and sanitizers and all kinds of different things that we use. So it's a misnomer, if you will, that there's only one way that this can be transferred or can be used as a weapon. And then there are other aspects to it as well. Everything is spiritually created before it physically manifests. So you can actually stay in your house, in the country, away from people, and still have this virus manifest in your system. It can be spiritually implanted. It can travel through the air, even if you're not in an airport or a public gathering. And so, they have all these stopgap measures that they're doing supposedly to help people stay safe, and the reality is what it's doing is invoking fear energy and promoting more and more fear of getting any of these viruses or potential plagues, which then it actually attracts the energy that they are fearing they're going to get.
I see. So is it safe to say then that you see an agenda behind this virus?
Absolutely an agenda. In fact, you and I were talking earlier about Agenda 21. So I don't know if you want to mention that a little bit. A lot of people don't know what Agenda 21 is.
Sure. I have my computer right here. There's a website that I was introduced to years ago called Deagle.com. You can go visit it. The main page doesn't work for some reason, but that's DEAGL.com/country/forecast. If you go to that website, and I'm going to try to display that on the screen here, but what you'll see is a website that lists all the countries ranked by population, and you'll see two numbers. On the top number, you'll see the ideal population, and the bottom number, you'll see the current population. And you'll see that many countries are listed there. Many countries are listed there, and the numbers are different. What you're seeing, and there's a significant difference between those numbers for the United States of America. Right now it shows us as 326,620,000 And the ideal population just above it in red is 99,553. Or sorry, 99,553,100.
Ideal meaning what this dark agenda wants to see happen, which is something else I talk about in my books that I saw in my near-death experience, and I saw in both day and night vision for years and for years and years and years. We're talking 15 and a half years now, and that I still continue to see both in day and night vision that their agenda is to depopulize the world so that they can take over and have a one world government.
Right.
It's even much darker than that, but that's the beginning stages of what their Agenda 21 is about.
There you go. And you can go and look. There's so much stuff on the internet listed on Agenda 21. The website I just referenced isn't specifically linked to Agenda 21, at least not on the outside. But it is linked to other government affiliates like the CIA. I can scroll down here. The IMF, the UN, and the USG. So it's
which are all corrupt. Those organizations are all corrupt. They're all tied together, working for the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Same 13 families that are running this world.
Which I believe you've called the puppet masters, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's I guess, the Agenda 21, I was just doing some basic research, and it's like this 40-page document, or 440 chapters of everything that Julie just mentioned, with population control, ideal situations for taking care of the earth, and all these kinds of things. And it does seem you can feel the agenda behind it, and its control, of course.
This goes into work camps later on, similar to what we had in World War II with concentration camps, where people will not have food and clothing and toilet paper, especially food and toilet paper and water. And so the members of certain governments will pull people together, and they will offer them a place to live, or food or clothing or water or resources that they don't currently have access to, in exchange for work in these work camps. And it's absolutely horrendous what they are trying to accomplish with this dark agenda.
It really is. Julie, if we shift gears now, with regard to this virus, I've heard you also say that you don't see this being particularly bad. Let me just pause there for a second. As I watch the news, listen, and hear what's going on, I've been asking myself the question, well, so-and-so is saying this, so-and-so is saying this. An ecclesiastical leader told me there's no cases in Idaho. Through the nurse and hospital network, I've heard there are cases in Idaho. And so I've just been asking this question, who can you really trust with regard to these numbers? Do you have any sense for if there's an authority on this, like the CDC, the World Health Organization, and are we getting true statistics?
No, we're not, and I don't believe any of them. And that's one of the reasons I say the only true source you can believe is to take it directly to God and ask him what you need to do with your life, and what you can trust when you hear from these different sources. Now, I will serve as a source to let you know this is a precursor to at least 3 other huge plagues that I see coming. There will be more than that, because each of these main plagues will mutate. That's how they were designed in the labs, which is why there is no plague be gone remedy, which is why things like energy work will be so important in the future. You can energetically release the pathogens that are contributing to coronavirus. Now, they're calling coronavirus, but attached to this, like I said, is the Epstein-Barr virus, as well as different bacterias. And so one case of corona is not the same as another case of corona. There is no catch-all. And one of the reasons it spreads so quickly is because not only is it through touch, but like I said, it's airborne. And then what they're doing as they militarize this is to invoke more fear and to test the populations of the world on a global scale to see how people are going to react, and to cause more fear energy and to trap more fear energy in people, to prepare the way for their even darker plagues that are coming, that will lead to higher degrees of population trauma and death. And so what we're looking at as we go, and this is what I talk about in my books, of us going into the tribulations that were prophesied by Isaiah and John in Revelations and other books of scripture, previous or prior to the Savior Jesus Christ coming back. This is legitimate stuff that we will see in our lifetime. In my lifetime, I am 47. I'll be 48 in January 2021, and I see significant changes happening in 2021. We'll see them in 2020. This is not uncommon for them to do things like this in a big election year, and there's lots of reasons why they would do this on a military strategy or political spectrum. It absolutely is horrendous what they're doing right now, and these people really are dying all over the world. But there are false numbers that are being reported, and a lot of it, there's a lot of hype, and there's a lot of control tactics, and there's a lot of manipulation. I see some of this kind of dying down a little bit before it resurfaces. And then what they'll do is they'll take these viruses that are being effectively used to kill certain people. They'll take the other viruses or bacteria that they've mutated in the labs. They'll connect those for like a super weapon. They've already developed them. They just haven't released them yet on full scale. Now, energetically, you can be spiritually implanted by these plagues as well. So if someone were to do energy work, you would test, or you could potentially test in your energy body that you are carrying this virus or certain plagues, and you can energetically release that. They will also spiritually put these time capsules, and they will energetically put those in your auric layers to be released on a time capsule. And they do this with disease all the time in spirit realm.
Interesting. So going back to those numbers, you say you see false numbers. I'm just curious if you see what's being reported statistically as being probably higher than what's the truth, or do you think it's lower?
I think it depends on where you are in the world.
Uh-huh.
Both are going on, and they're pitting against each other. This is what happens. The sources of dark that are seeking power, depending on whatever their agenda is, will fight for power and voice, and we see that pattern in the scriptures day in and day out. So we're living it.
Right.
So.
Okay, so I guess looking forward then, we can expect this to sort of die out. Maybe nothing too much comes of it as far as losing
I
big
don't see
numbers.
it totally dying out. I just think the hype around it is going to intensify initially, get more of the fear energy going. That attracts other fear energy, and it leaves a residue or a residual energy in the energy body or energy system of the individual carrying that blueprint. So this is affecting the energetic blueprints of every individual on the planet or in any dimension within our space. It is altering the energetic blueprints or the history or memory of that energy body of that individual. And then what that will do is later on, when they release these others, that will attract it even stronger to the individual who was once, quote unquote, plagued with that fear energy.
Okay, so it's
So there are
almost
a lot of
acting like a
different types
magnet.
of weapons that they use. Yes.
Okay.
And they do this all the time with other energies, emotion energies of fear, anxiety, hatred, any negative energies in spirit realm. They do this all the time. And in physical realm, they do this through commercials, movies, all kinds of things. You'll notice what they're putting out in Hollywood, and a lot of these dark movies actually affect the blueprint or the energy system of an individual as they watch that movie or they watch that television program, and it will actually open up dark portals and attract the energy that they fear the most.
I see. And so, another question I've had is I've heard some people link this to elections, that every time there's a
Right.
general election, that there's some kind of fear-based pandemic
Right.
sort of thing. Do you link this to this upcoming
Yes.
election?
Yes, I do. I think this is a precursor to 2021. It's tied into Agenda 21, which is tied into UN global forces and cabal and Illuminati. It's all tied in together. Many of them are working together and separately. And this is tied into the group the Satanists that sit at their conference desk in Switzerland that have threatened me for going public. This is big stuff. And I'm not making it up. There are a lot of witnesses, people that are talking about this on the internet. Mine comes from a spiritual source with dreams, visions, and near-death experience with how I have gained this knowledge, and through revelation that I continue to get from my angels on the other side of the veil. This is all tied together with, at the very highest orders of the dark Satanists on the planet that are directing each of these organizations, from every corporation in America that has any kind of shareholder investments, publicly trading companies, because ultimately what they want to do is also crash the market. And I see food rotting on the docks, right? They'll bring the food into California, and people will be so hungry, and they just will leave it rotting on the docks, and people, 2, 3, 4 days without food in Walmart or Costco or whatever, and you're going to have mass chaos and a bunch of angry people and panicked people because they can't get their groceries.
And so you see the puppet masters, the cabal, the Illuminati, these people that are controlling all this, sort of observing right now. What kinds of
Yes.
things do you think they're watching for and monitoring for future
They're,
releases?
well, they want to test the pulse of the world, and then they're keeping their eyes big time on the United States. What they want is World War III to occur, with its center stage initially starting in the Pacific, out near China and Japan, and some of those islands out there. War will start in the Pacific, and then and as some of that starts up, then with the um, food shortages and earthquakes and other things that we have now. Not all earthquakes are naturally designed too. We have some of the dark forces that are actually contributing and causing some of the earthquakes we have on the planet. And so I see a huge earthquake, well, like a 6 to 6.7, 7 on the Richter scale, headed at the University of Utah in Utah, Salt Lake, and that will splinter out into Utah County and Salt Lake County, and and that mountainous area there. And then the Ring of Fire is going to open up, and we're going to have earthquakes like we've never seen before for years and years and years, coming off of the coasts of Washington, Oregon, and California, especially California, and those huge earthquakes. And then we'll have some dormant volcanoes in New Mexico and Nevada and other places, Washington, Mount St. Helens, that are going to erupt. And we will have foreign troops coming in, Russians coming into the coast, as well as the Chinese, in peacekeeping efforts, as some of these things are let loose on the planet and on the American continent, specifically the United States. They will come in as peacekeepers, and within a short amount of time, we will realize that we have been invaded by foreign armies who are trying to take over our land.
Very interesting. A lot of things coming. I think we ought to spend a little more time on some of those events you just discussed in the future.
Right.
Is keeping this focused on the coronavirus, but I guess maybe we're about out of time here, but let's wrap it up on a positive note. What can you tell your listeners about the coronavirus and staying clear of it and being safe?
Right. Well, first of all, if you are to contact coronavirus, now people have had coronavirus for years. Some of these have been on the planet for decades now. They are just now manifesting. Maybe they were implanted with it, or came across it 10 years ago, and it's just now manifesting as part of the what's happening on the planet. You can, like I said, you can energetically clear this. I've cleared it from myself several times. I've had clients that I clear it from. They might experience a few symptoms, and then we energetically clear it. Spiritually manifesting is different than physical manifestation, but if you clear it spiritually or from a deep root cause, meaning when they attach emotion, energy, or frequencies, this is the other thing they're doing as a weapon, attaching emotion frequencies to the virus, that strengthens the virus. And so if you have a fear energy attached to a coronavirus, that is as a weapon, um, you release the fear, right? So someone that is afraid of getting coronavirus, the first thing I would recommend that they do, other than keeping their house and their body clean, is to regularly pray and ask for their angels to clear out their fear energy, specifically related to coronavirus. And as they do this, they will have less of a chance of attracting that particular frequency, because they're attaching certain frequencies to the pathogen frequency. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yes.
So emotion energy, and then any kind of pathogen at all, you can do the same thing. You can ask your angels to help you clear out pathogens. At least then you're clearing out on a deeper spiritual level, everything spiritually created before it physically manifests. If it's already physically manifested, you can do the typical flu treatments. But given that it's a virus, that's already going to be in your system, and you just kind of have to ride it out. So you want to be as healthy as possible. Have some pink Himalayan salt, take some Epsom salt baths, drink lots and lots of water. So there's some basic things we should be doing with our bodies anyway that will just help us clear out the toxins and stuff.
I suppose for your listeners who may not be religiously inclined or acknowledge a higher power, they can meditate and just
Right.
go inward and just clear and free themselves of the
Right.
the chaos energy and that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will just put this out there, Eric. If they're not religiously minded, then they're not going to get truly healed, because it is through the atonement of Christ that people will heal from this or any other plague. And not having fear energy, and then before they came to earth, before we come to earth, we have our individual plan of what we wanted in our life so that we could progress into whatever eternal being we want to become. So realizing that you're not a victim, and that you do have control over certain things in your life, and not being afraid of death, not being afraid to get sick, not being afraid of right. I have zero fear about this coronavirus because I put my trust in God, and I think if I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this, and I'll work through it. And if I'm going to die, well, I know what it's like over there. It's a great place.
Right.
And if I lose a loved one to this, that's okay too, because this is part of their life plan that they agreed to, and maybe they learned what they needed to in mortality, and they're ready to move on. So shifting their energy, shifting their mindset, so that they can take back their power instead of letting the dark side own who they are or take their power from them.
That's so great. I really appreciate the positive, empowered angle on this, and just
Yeah,
taking.
you just have.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks. So you just have to flip the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Look at the positive on everything and take your power back. Don't let anybody else tell you what to think, tell you how to feel, tell you what to do. Flip the energy on it.
Very good. I can't think of a better summary and conclusion to this episode than right there. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
And,
thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and join us again here soon.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Okay.